Tonight, we are going to let an ancient book quiet your mind. More than 2,500 years ago, in the forests and villages of ancient India, a teacher walked and spoke, and the words he offered were gathered, over time, into a small collection of verses. They were never written down in his lifetime, but carried in memory, recited, and passed from heart to heart, treasured for the comfort they brought, until at last they were set down as the book we have tonight. That collection is called the Dhammapada, which means something like the path or the way of the teaching. It is one of the oldest books in the world that people still read for comfort, and for more than 2,000 years, weary hearts have turned to it in the quiet hours, seeking exactly what you are seeking now, a way to put the restless mind to rest. Kings and farmers, monks and merchants, the troubled and the grieving, all have turned to these same words across the centuries and found in them a quiet companion for the long hours of the night. Tonight, they will be your companion too. These verses were never meant to be studied with effort, or memorized, or understood all at once. They were spoken to settle the heart. And tonight, that is all we will ask of them. We will let a few of these ancient words drift through the dark, slowly, gently, and we will let them do what they have always done. Quiet the mind. Before we begin, take a slow breath and let yourself arrive. Notice the weight of your body against the bed, the quiet of the room, the simple fact that for now, there is nowhere you need to go and nothing you need to do. However your day has been, whatever you are carrying into this night, you are welcome here, just as you are. You do not need to know anything about Buddhism to rest with these words. You do not need to believe anything, or remember anything, or take anything away. There is nothing here to figure out. No lesson you must absorb, no meaning you must extract, no effort of understanding required of you at all. These verses do their work quietly, beneath the level of effort, the way a lullaby soothes a child who understands not a single word of it. If your mind wanders as you listen, let it wander. If you drift off before the end, let yourself drift. The verses will keep. They have kept for 2,500 years, and they will still be here tomorrow and all the nights after. So let yourself settle now. Let your shoulders soften and drop. Let the day fall away behind you. Whatever it held, the rushing and the noise, the things done and the things left undone, let all of it begin to recede now, like a far shore seen from a boat drifting gently out onto calm water. Let your body grow heavy, held and supported, asking nothing of you at all. Take one more slow breath in and let it go. You are here, with moonlit Dharma, and there is nowhere else you need to be. Let us begin. The Dhammapada opens with the mind and with one of the gentlest and most freeing teachings the Buddha ever gave. It is a teaching about the things we carry and the weight they place upon us in the night. For the mind, when it cannot rest, is so often a mind that is carrying something, an old hurt, a fresh wound, a wrong that was done to us and will not be set down. And the Dhammapada begins, gently, by showing us how to lay these burdens down. There are some verses near the very beginning that go like this. He abused me, he struck me, he overpowered me, He robbed me. Those who harbor such thoughts do not still their hatred. And then the verse turns and offers the other way. He abused me. He struck me. He overpowered me. He robbed me. Those who do not harbor such thoughts still their hatred. Listen to what the Buddha is pointing to here. Not the original hurt, whatever it was. The hurt happened, and it was real. But the verse is not about the hurt. It is about the harboring, the holding, the way we take an old wound and carry it with us, repeating it to ourselves. He abused me. He wronged me. He should not have done what he did. And every time we repeat it, we feel the hurt again, fresh, as though it were happening once more, right now, in the dark. The mind does not know the difference between a wound and the memory of a wound. It bleeds again at every retelling. This is so much of what keeps us awake. Not the events of the day themselves, but the way we carry them into the night, turning them over, replaying them, holding tight to all the ways we were wronged. Someone was unkind to us. Someone overlooked us. Someone said the thing that stung. And long after that person has forgotten all about it, long after they have gone to sleep themselves, we lie awake, still holding it, still turning it over, still feeling the sting again and again. There is an old image that captures this perfectly. Holding on to anger and resentment is like grasping a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. But the one who is burned, first and most, is the one doing the holding. The coal sits in our own hand, scorching our own palm all through the night, while the person we are angry at feels nothing at all. We are the ones who are burned by what we will not put down. And the strange thing is how tightly we grip the coal, believing that to release it would be to let the other person win, to let the wrong go unanswered. But the other person feels nothing of our grip. Only our own hand burns. Only our own night is lost to the holding. And then comes the verse that the whole Dhammapada is perhaps most known for. Hatred is never appeased by hatred in this world. By non-hatred alone is hatred appeased. This is a law eternal. It is a simple thing to say and a deep thing to understand. You cannot put out a fire by adding more fire. You cannot quiet a resentment by feeding it more resentment, replaying the wrong, building your case, growing more and more certain that you were right and they were wrong. Every replay throws another log on the fire. Every rehearsal of the injury makes it burn hotter and brighter, deeper into the night. All of that is adding fire to fire, and it only burns hotter, and it keeps you awake. The only thing that ever cools the fire is to stop feeding it, to set down the hot coal, to let the wrong, whatever it was, simply be over. This does not mean what happened was acceptable. It does not mean you must pretend the hurt away or call the wrong a right. It means only this, that you no longer have to carry it through the night, that you can set the coal down, not for their sake, but for your own, so that your own hand may finally stop burning and cool and rest. Tonight, you can put it down. Whatever wrong you have been carrying, whatever resentment you have been holding tight, you can loosen your grip and let it fall just for now. Not forever, if that feels too hard. just for tonight. Just for these few quiet hours, you can set it down and let your hand rest. Not because it did not matter, but because you are tired and your hand has been burning for long enough. Let the coal fall from your open hand. Feel how the burning eases the moment you stop holding it. And let your hand, empty now and cool and soft, rest open in the dark. Feel the difference between the clenched fist and the open palm. The fist is effort and heat and holding. The open hand is ease and coolness and rest. Let your hand stay open tonight, holding nothing, gripping nothing, simply resting, soft and empty and free. Let us explore a story. There is an old account from the life of the Buddha, from the days when he walked from village to village, teaching whoever wished to listen. Not everyone wished him well. His teachings drew crowds, and crowds draw envy, and there were those who resented the quiet teacher and the peace that seemed to follow him. One day, as the Buddha sat teaching a small gathering, a man arrived who was full of anger. He had heard of this teacher, and for reasons of his own, he despised him. He pushed through the gathering and stood before the Buddha and began to insult him. He used every harsh word he knew. He shouted and accused and abused the Buddha before everyone, his face red with fury, his words like stones. The gathered crowd watched, tense and uncertain, waiting to see how the teacher would answer such an assault. The Buddha listened calmly, without anger, without flinching. He did not argue. He did not defend himself. He did not return a single harsh word. He simply waited with quiet attention until the man had exhausted himself and fallen silent. And then the Buddha asked him a question. "Tell me," he said gently, "if a man offers a gift to another, and that other person refuses to accept it, will not take it into their hands at all, to whom does the gift then belong?" The angry man, not understanding why he was being asked such a thing, answered roughly, "It belongs to the one who offered it, of course. If it is not accepted, it goes back to the giver." The Buddha nodded. "Just so," he said. "You have offered me many harsh words today, many insults, much anger, but I do not accept them. I will not take them into my hands. And so, tell me, to whom do all those harsh words now belong?" The Buddha asked it gently, without anger, simply offering the question the way one might offer back a parcel that had been left at the wrong door. The man stood silent, the truth of it slowly settling over him. The insults he had hurled, if they were not accepted, remained with him. He had not wounded the Buddha at all. He had only filled his own hands, his own heart, with all the anger he had carried in. The Buddha had simply declined to receive it, and so all of it, every harsh word, had returned to the one who gave it. It is said the man's anger broke apart in that moment, like a wave against a rock, and that he sat down, humbled and quiet, and began, for the first time, to listen. He had come to wound, and found nothing to wound. He had come to give away his anger, and been left holding all of it himself. And in that strange emptiness, where his fury had nowhere to land, something in him softened and opened and grew still. Now, there is something in this old story that speaks directly to the long night and to the things we lie awake holding, because so often the harsh words we cannot stop replaying are gifts we have accepted that we did not need to accept. Someone offered us an insult, a slight, an unkindness, and instead of letting it remain with them, we took it into our hands. We carried it home. We turned it over and over, and we are turning it over still in the dark, holding tight to words that were never ours to keep. But you can do what the Buddha did. You can decline the gift. The unkindness someone offered you does not have to become yours simply because it was offered. You can choose, even now, even tonight, not to accept it, to let it remain with the one who gave it, and to keep your own hands empty and your own heart clear. What harsh words are you still holding tonight that were never yours to keep? What insults, what slights, what unkindnesses have you carried home and made your own? You may set them down. You may decline them gently, the way the Buddha did, and let them return to wherever they came from. They were never yours. Someone else's anger, someone else's unkindness, picked up and carried as though it belonged to you. But it does not, and it never did, and you may hand it back to the dark and walk on without it. You do not have to carry them into sleep. Let them go, and feel how much lighter you are without the weight of words that were never meant to be yours at all. Picture them, even now, lifting from your hands like birds, rising into the dark, flying back to wherever they came from. They were never yours to carry. And your hands, empty now, can finally rest, open and soft and free, in the quiet of the night. There is a quiet freedom in this, the freedom of the empty hand. So much of what we carry into the night was handed to us by others, and we took it without thinking, and we have been holding it ever since. The unkind word, the old wrong, the slight we cannot forget, all of it sitting in our hands like hot coals, burning us through the dark, while those who gave it to us sleep soundly, having long forgotten. But you do not have to hold any of it. Not tonight. The Buddha showed that what is not accepted returns to the giver, and that the heart which declines to carry anger is the heart that finds its peace. You can be that heart tonight, open-handed, empty, holding nothing that was meant to burn you. So let your hands rest open in the dark. Let whatever you have been clutching simply fall away. The wrongs are not yours to carry, and the night is not the place to hold them. Set them down, all of them, and let your tired hands and your tired heart grow soft and cool and quiet, ready now for rest. You have carried enough today. You have held enough and worried enough and turned enough things over in the dark. Now it is time, simply, to set it all down and rest. Let us turn now to another verse from the Dhammapada, one that touches a habit of the mind that keeps us awake more often than we realize. It is the habit of needing to win. The verse goes like this: Victory breeds hatred, for the conquered is unhappy. He who has given up both victory and defeat, the contented, is happy. This is a strange thing for a teacher to say, in a world that prizes winning above almost everything. We are taught, from our earliest days to win, to come out on top, to be right, to prevail in every argument and contest. And yet here is the Buddha saying that victory itself breeds hatred, that the very act of conquering leaves behind a wake of unhappiness, and that the truly happy person is the one who has set down both winning and losing altogether. Think of how this plays out in the mind at night. So often, what keeps us awake is an argument we are still trying to win, a conversation from the day that did not go our way, and now we are replaying it, but this time we say the perfect thing. This time we have the crushing reply. This time we win. We lie in the dark, conducting imaginary arguments, rehearsing our victories, building the case that will finally prove we were right. And notice what this does. It keeps the conflict alive. The argument ended hours ago, perhaps, but in our minds it rages on, because we have not yet won, and we cannot rest until we win. We have made our peace conditional on a victory that exists only in our own heads, against an opponent who is not even there. The Buddha's teaching offers a way out of this exhausting contest. What if you did not have to win? What if, just for tonight, you set down both victory and defeat, not conceding that you were wrong, not declaring the other person right, but simply stepping out of the contest altogether, letting the argument be unfinished, letting the last word go unsaid, releasing the need to prevail, and finding, in that release, the contentment the verse promises. There is a deep rest in no longer needing to be right. The mind that must win every argument can never be still, because there is always another argument, another point to prove, another contest to enter. But the mind that has set down the whole game of winning and losing has nothing left to fight for, and so it can finally rest. It is not the victor who sleeps soundly. It is the one who has stopped needing to conquer at all. For the victor must defend the victory, and the next contest always waits, and the crown once won must be guarded through every night. There is no peace at the top of the contest, only a higher and more anxious perch. But the one who has left the field entirely has nothing to defend and nothing to guard, and so can finally lay down and rest. Tonight, you can step out of the contest. Whatever argument you have been replaying, whatever point you have been aching to prove, you can let it go unfinished, just for now. You do not have to win tonight. You do not have to be right tonight. You have only to set down both the victory and the defeat, and rest in the quiet contentment of one who has nothing left to prove, and no contest left to win. Feel the strange relief of it. The argument can stay unfinished. The last word can go unsaid. There is no scoreboard in the dark, no judge waiting for your final reply, no victory you must secure before you are allowed to rest. You may simply lay it all down and sleep. Let us explore a story. In an old village, there lived a master of the martial arts, famous throughout the region for his skill. He had trained all his life, won countless contests, and never once been defeated. His reputation was everything to him, and he guarded it fiercely, certain that to lose even once would be to lose himself. One day, a young and arrogant fighter came to the village, eager to make a name for himself by defeating the famous old master. He found the master sitting quietly by a stream, and he began to provoke him. He insulted his skill. He mocked his age. He challenged him to fight, loudly, so that all the village could hear. He did everything he could to goad the old master into a contest. But the old master simply listened and smiled and said nothing. The young fighter grew louder, more insulting, more aggressive. Still the master did not rise to it. He sat by the stream, calm and unbothered, watching the water flow. Finally, exhausted and confused, the young fighter demanded, "Why will you not fight me? Are you a coward? Have you lost your nerve in your old age?" The old master looked at him with kind and steady eyes. "Tell me," he said, "if someone offers you a fight and you do not accept it, who has won and who has lost?" The young man frowned, not understanding. "There is no contest," the master said, "unless I agree to enter it. You have come here seeking to win, but I have nothing to defend, and so there is nothing here for you to conquer. I gave up the need to win many years ago, and on the day I gave it up, I became truly undefeatable, not because I win every fight, but because I no longer enter the contest at all. You cannot defeat a man who is not competing. You cannot conquer one who has set down the whole idea of conquest. You came here to win, and I have given you nothing to win against. Your victory needs my defeat, and I will not offer it. And so your hunger to conquer simply has nowhere to go." The young fighter stood there, his aggression draining away, faced with something he did not know how to fight. For all his skill, he had no way to defeat a man who simply would not compete. "I once believed, as you do," the old master said gently, "that my worth depended on never losing. And so I could never rest, because there was always another challenger, always another contest, always the fear of the one defeat that would undo me. I was a prisoner of my own need to win. It was only when I set that need down that I finally found peace. Now I have nothing to prove and nothing to defend, and so nothing anyone says or does can disturb me. They may call me weak, or a coward, or beaten. Let them. Their words land on a man who needs nothing from them, and so they fall away like rain off a leaf. That is a freedom no victory could ever give." The young fighter, it is said, sat down beside the old master by the stream, and his hunger to win quietly left him, and for the first time in a long while he felt at peace. There is wisdom here for the restless mind in the dark. So much of our sleeplessness comes from contests we are still fighting, points we are still trying to prove, victories we are still chasing in the theater of our own minds. We believe, like the young fighter, that we cannot rest until we have won, that our peace depends on prevailing. But you can be like the old master tonight. You can decline the contest. Whatever argument the mind keeps trying to win, you can simply refuse to enter it. Not by losing, not by conceding, but by stepping out of the whole game of winning and losing and discovering, as the master did, that there is a peace on the other side of competition that no victory could ever provide. Set down the need to win tonight. Step out of the contest and rest in the deep and quiet freedom of one who has nothing left to prove. The young fighter spent his strength trying to win. The old master spent nothing at all and was free. Tonight, you can be the master, not the fighter, resting quietly by your own still stream, with nothing to defend and no one to defeat. It is a quiet kind of strength, this willingness to not compete. The mind so often tells us that we must win, that we must be right, that we cannot rest until we have prevailed. But the Buddha saw, and the old master knew, that the one who sets down both victory and defeat is freer than any champion. You have nothing to prove tonight. Not to anyone who wronged you, not to anyone who doubted you, not even to yourself. The contests of the day are over, and you do not have to carry them, unfinished, into the dark. You can let the last word go unsaid. You can let the argument rest, incomplete, and let yourself rest along with it. So, step out of the contest now. Lay down the need to win. Let the imaginary arguments fall silent, and the rehearsed replies grow still. There is no one to defeat here in the quiet dark, and nothing to prove, and no contest to win. There is only you, free of the whole exhausting game, resting at last in the peace of one who no longer needs to conquer anything at all. Let us turn now to a verse from the chapter of the Dhammapada that is named for flowers, a verse about the way the mind loves to find fault. It goes like this: let none find fault with others. Let none see the omissions and commissions of others, but let one see one's own acts, done and undone. The Buddha is describing here a particular habit of the mind, one that grows especially loud in the quiet of the night, the habit of judging, of cataloging faults, of running, again and again, through everything that others have done wrong, and everything that we ourselves have done wrong, holding a kind of endless court in the darkness of the mind. It is a court that never adjourns, where the same cases are tried over and over, where no verdict ever brings the matter to a close, where the judging itself has become a habit the mind cannot seem to put down. Notice how this happens when you lie down to rest. The mind becomes a courtroom. It calls up the day and begins to pass judgment. This person was rude. That person let me down. This one should have known better. And then it turns the judgment inward, which is often harsher still. I should not have said that. I handled that poorly. I am not doing enough, not being enough, not getting it right. On and on the court proceeds, hearing case after case, and the judge never rests, and the verdicts are never kind. The Buddha's verse offers a way to dismiss this court, at least for the night. Let none find fault with others, he says, not because others have no faults, but because the cataloging of those faults does nothing but disturb your own peace. The person who wronged you is not kept awake by your judgment of them. Only you are. The endless court convicts no one but the judge, who sits up all night hearing cases that change nothing and cost everything. And the verse turns, gently, toward the only thing that is truly ours to tend. Let one see one's own acts, done and undone, not to judge them harshly, but simply to attend to them with honesty and with kindness. Our own actions are the one thing we can actually do something about. The faults of others are not in our hands. And even our own past actions, the things already done, cannot be changed by lying awake condemning ourselves for them. The harsh verdict you pass on yourself at midnight changes nothing about the day that is gone. It only steals the night that remains. Tomorrow, in the light, you can tend gently to whatever needs tending, but the midnight court helps no one, least of all you. There is a great relief in closing the court, in deciding, for tonight at least, that you will not sit in judgment, not of others and not of yourself, that you will let the faults of the day go unjudged, the verdicts unspoken, the whole exhausting trial adjourned until morning, if it needs to resume at all. The mind that is not busy judging is a mind that can finally grow quiet. Notice how much energy the judging takes. Each verdict requires evidence, argument, the building of a case. The court of the mind is exhausting precisely because it never rests, never reaches a final ruling, never closes its doors. But you hold the gavel, and you can choose tonight to bring the session to an end. Tonight, you can close the court. You can set down the gavel. Whatever faults you have been weighing in others or in yourself, you can let them rest unjudged, just for now. You are not the judge of the world tonight, nor even the judge of yourself. You are simply someone who is tired and who is ready to rest, and who is allowed to lay down the heavy work of judgment and let the court fall silent in the dark. Let the gavel rest. Let the cases go unheard. Let every verdict wait for a morning that may never need to come. The judging can stop now, and in its stopping, the mind can finally grow quiet, released from the long and weary work of weighing everyone, including yourself. Let us explore a story. There was once a man who had a peculiar habit. He kept count of every wrong that was ever done to him. He carried a small bag at his side, and into this bag, each time someone slighted him or disappointed him or failed to meet his expectations, he placed a stone. A small stone for a small wrong, a larger stone for a larger one. He told himself that this was wisdom, that by keeping track of every fault, he was protecting himself, remembering who had wronged him, never being fooled twice. Years passed, and the bag grew heavy. Every day he added a stone or two, for the world is full of small disappointments, and he noticed every one. The bag pulled at his shoulder. It slowed his steps. It woke him at night with its weight pressing against him. But still he carried it, certain that to set it down would be to forget, and to forget would be to be vulnerable. One day, bent low under the weight of his bag of stones, he met an old woman walking lightly along the road. She seemed to carry nothing at all, and yet she had lived a long life, full of the same disappointments and slights that fill any life. "How is it," he asked her, "that you walk so lightly? Have you never been wronged? Have you nothing to carry?" The old woman smiled. "Oh, I have been wronged as much as anyone," she said. "Life has handed me as many stones as it has handed you." "Then where are they?" the man asked, astonished. "Where do you keep them all?" "I do not keep them," she said simply. "That is the difference between us. You collect your stones, and I let mine fall. Each time someone hands me a stone, I look at it and I feel its weight, and then I set it down by the side of the road and walk on. I do not put it in a bag. I do not carry it with me. The wrong happened, yes, but I see no reason to carry it for the rest of my life. You have been carrying yours for years. No wonder you are so tired. The man looked down at his heavy bag, and for the first time he truly felt its weight, and understood that he had been carrying every old wound, every small disappointment, every slight, all of it, every single day, for years and years. And none of it had protected him. It had only weighed him down and bent his back and stolen his sleep. Slowly, there on the road, he opened the bag, and one by one he began to take out the stones and set them down. The old slights, the forgotten arguments, the wrongs so old he could barely remember why they had mattered. Each stone he lifted from the bag, looked at, and laid gently by the side of the road. He set them all down by the side of the road, and with each stone he released, he felt a little lighter, a little freer, a little more able to stand straight and breathe. And when the bag was empty, he found that he could walk lightly, like the old woman, unburdened at last. He stood up straight for the first time in years. He breathed deeply. The road ahead, which had seemed so long and hard under the weight of his stones, now seemed open and easy. He had carried all of it for so long that he had forgotten what it felt like to walk free. There is something here that speaks directly to the long night and to the weight we carry into it. Because so many of us keep a bag of stones, even if we have never thought of it that way. We keep count of the wrongs done to us, the faults of others, the ways we have been let down, and we carry all of it, every day, into every night, the bag pressing against us in the dark, too heavy to let us rest. But you can empty the bag. You can do, tonight, what the man finally did on the road. You can take out the stones, one by one, the old wrongs and slights and disappointments. Look at each one, feel its weight, and then set it down. Not carry it any longer. Not into tonight, not into tomorrow. The wrongs happened, but you do not have to carry them. Set down the bag of stones and feel how light you become, how free, how ready for rest, when you finally stop carrying every old wound through the dark. One by one, let them fall. The old argument, the forgotten slight, the wrong you have carried so long you barely remember why. Let each one drop from your hands into the dark, where it can rest, so that you can rest too, light and unburdened at last. How heavy the bag of stones becomes, and how quietly we grow used to its weight. We carry the faults of others and the faults of ourselves, the slights and the wrongs and the disappointments, and we call it remembering or protecting ourselves, when really it is only a weight that bends our backs and steals our sleep. But none of it needs to be carried into the night. The court can close. The bag can empty. The stones can be set down by the side of the road, the old wrongs released, the judgments laid to rest. Not because nothing ever happened, but because you are tired, and the carrying has cost you enough. So set the stones down now, one by one. Let the bag grow light and then empty. Let the faults of the day, in others and in yourself, rest unjudged in the dark. And feel how your shoulders ease, how your back straightens, how your whole body softens when you finally lay down the weight you were never meant to carry into sleep. Let us turn now to a verse from the chapter of the Dhammapada that is called simply Happiness. It is a verse about a strange and quiet kind of freedom. The verse goes like this: Let us live happily then, though we call nothing our own. We shall be like the bright gods, feeding on happiness. This is a difficult idea for the mind to accept in a world that teaches us to gather, to keep, to hold on tightly to all that we have. We are taught that happiness comes from having, from owning, from accumulating, and yet the Buddha points to the opposite, a happiness that comes not from having, but from the lightness of holding nothing too tightly, the freedom of the one who calls nothing their own. Now, this is not really about possessions, though it includes them. It is about the grip of the mind, the way we cling, the way we hold tight to things and to outcomes, and to the way we believe life must go, certain that our happiness depends on keeping them, terrified of losing them. We do not only own our possessions, we own our plans, our hopes, our pictures of how tomorrow must unfold, and we grip all of it with the same anxious hand. And so much of what keeps us awake at night is exactly this grip, this clinging, this fear of loss, the tight fist of the mind holding on through the dark, afraid that if it lets go for even a moment, something precious will slip away. Consider how much of the mind's nighttime worry is about holding on. We worry about losing what we have. We worry about not getting what we want. We worry about whether things will go the way we have decided they must go. We grip the future, trying to control it. We grip the past, refusing to release it. We hold so much, so tightly, that our hands and our hearts are never empty enough to rest. We grip our possessions, our plans, our ideas of how everything should be. And all that gripping is exhausting, and it is the very opposite of rest. The verse offers a lighter way. What would it be like, just for tonight, to call nothing your own? To loosen your grip on everything? Not to lose anything, not to give anything away, but simply to stop clutching, to hold your life the way you might hold water in an open palm, lightly, without squeezing, letting it rest there without the desperate grip that only drives it away. There is a profound rest in the open hand. The clenched fist is always tense, always working, always afraid. But the open hand is at ease. It holds what rests in it without effort, and it releases what leaves it without struggle. The one who calls nothing their own is not poor. They are free, free of the fear of loss because they are not clutching, free of the exhaustion of holding on because they have set down the grip entirely. Tonight, you can loosen your grip on everything, the worries about what you might lose, the anxieties about what you might not get, the desperate hold on how things must turn out. Just for tonight, you can call nothing your own. You can let your hands fall open in the dark, holding nothing, gripping nothing, clutching at nothing at all. And in that openness, in that letting go, you may find the lightness the verse promises, the quiet happiness of one who has nothing to protect, and nothing to lose, and nothing left to hold. Notice how the body itself responds to this. As the grip of the mind loosens, the hands soften, the shoulders drop, the breath grows deep. The whole body, sensing that there is nothing to defend tonight, begins on its own to let go and to rest. Let us explore a story. There is an old tale, very ancient, about a sage who lived in a city called Mithila, long ago. He was a man of great peace, known throughout the region for the calm that never seemed to leave him, no matter what happened around him. People came from far away simply to sit in his presence, for there was something about his stillness that quieted their own troubled hearts. He was not a wealthy man, nor a powerful one. He simply possessed a peace that nothing seemed able to shake, and people longed to understand where such peace could come from. One day, a great fire broke out in the city. It spread quickly through the wooden buildings, leaping from roof to roof, and soon a large part of the city was in flames. People ran through the streets in panic, trying to save their homes, their possessions, everything they owned. The air was full of smoke and shouting and the roar of the fire. In the midst of all this chaos, the sage sat calmly, watching. His own dwelling was in the path of the flames, and as he watched, the fire reached it and consumed it and burned everything he had to ash. And through all of this, he remained perfectly serene, his face untroubled, his breath steady, sitting quietly as his home burned before his eyes. A man running past, carrying what he had salvaged of his own belongings, stopped, astonished at the sage's calm. "Your house is burning," he cried. "Everything you own is being destroyed. How can you sit there so peacefully? Why are you not running to save your things, or weeping at their loss?" The sage looked at him and spoke words that have been remembered ever since. "I live happily indeed," he said quietly, "for I have nothing. While the city of Mithila burns, nothing of mine is burning." The man did not understand and ran on. But the sage's meaning was deep. It was not that he had owned no house, no possessions. They were burning before him, after all. It was that he had never truly called them his own. He had held them lightly, used them while they were there, but never gripped them, never made his peace depend on keeping them. And so when they burned, his peace did not burn with them. He had nothing to lose, not because he had nothing, but because he clung to nothing. And so nothing of his, nothing that truly mattered, nothing of his peace, was touched by the flames at all. The fire took the wood and the cloth and the walls, but it could not reach the stillness within him, for that had never been built of anything the fire could burn. He sat in the light of his burning house as calmly as he might have sat by a fire lit for warmth. This is a hard teaching, and a deep one, and we need not master it tonight. But there is something in it that can ease the restless mind even now, because so much of our nighttime anxiety is the fear of losing what we grip so tightly. We lie awake afraid for our possessions, our plans, our relationships, our health, our future, clutching all of it, terrified of the fire that might take it. And the clutching itself is a kind of burning, a constant low fear that never lets us rest. We hold so tightly to what we are afraid to lose that the holding itself becomes the suffering, the very thing that keeps us tense and wakeful in the dark. But what if, just for tonight, you held it all a little more lightly, not giving anything up, not pretending you do not care, but simply loosening the desperate grip, letting your peace not depend on keeping everything exactly as it is. The sage was free not because he had nothing, but because he clung to nothing, and so the fires of the world could not touch the stillness within him. Tonight, you can let your peace rest somewhere the fire cannot reach. Not in your possessions, not in your plans, not in your grip on how things must go, but in the simple, quiet stillness that is yours no matter what burns or does not burn in the world outside. Hold everything lightly tonight. Call nothing your own just for now, and rest in the deep peace of one who has nothing to lose, because their stillness was never something the world could take. Let the things of your life rest lightly in open hands tonight, not gripped, not clutched, not held in fear, simply resting there for as long as they remain, held gently, released easily, while your own deep peace stays steady beneath them all, untouched by what comes and goes. There is a lightness in the open hand that the clenched fist can never know. We spend so much of our strength gripping, clutching, holding tight to all we have and all we want, and all the ways we have decided life must go. And the gripping is exhausting, and the fear of loss never sleeps. But the sage in the burning city showed another way, to hold all things lightly, to call nothing our own, to let our peace rest somewhere that no fire can reach. Not in what we own, but in the quiet stillness within, which is ours no matter what comes or goes. So let your hands fall open now. Loosen the grip just for tonight. Let go of the clutching, the holding, the fear of losing what you cannot keep forever anyway, and rest in the lightness of the open hand, holding nothing, gripping nothing, free of the weight of all you were so afraid to lose. Let the worries about losing rest. Let the anxieties about keeping rest. The open hand needs none of it, and neither, tonight, do you. Nothing you set down tonight is truly lost. It waits for you, if you need it, in the morning. But for now, in the dark, you can let it all rest outside your open hands, and discover how light you are without the holding, how free, how ready at last for sleep. Let us return now to the opening chapter of the Dhammapada for a pair of verses that speak directly to the storms of the restless mind. The verses go like this: just as a storm throws down a weak tree, so does temptation overpower the one who lives heedlessly, uncontrolled in the senses, immoderate and irresolute. And then the turn. Just as a storm cannot prevail against a rocky mountain, so temptation cannot overpower the one who lives mindfully, controlled, and filled with faith. In the old texts, the force that overpowers the weak tree is given a name. It is called Mara, which we might think of as the voice of restlessness itself, the force of agitation and temptation and disturbance that pulls at the mind and will not let it settle. And the Buddha gives us two images for how we meet this force. We can be the weak tree, or we can be the rocky mountain. Think of the weak tree in a storm. It has shallow roots. It is brittle and tense, and it resists the wind with all its rigid strength. And so when the great gusts come, they catch it and shake it and tear it from the ground. This is the mind that has no ground beneath it, that is tossed about by every passing worry, every gust of fear, every storm of anxious thought, with nothing to hold it steady. And then think of the mountain. When the storm comes against a mountain, the mountain does nothing at all. It does not resist, and it does not flee. It simply remains. The wind howls against it. The rain lashes its slopes. The thunder rolls across it, and the mountain is utterly unmoved, neither fighting the storm nor running from it, simply being what it has always been, deep and rooted and still, because its strength is not in fighting the storm but in its own deep stillness, its own vast and rooted calm. The storm exhausts itself against the mountain's quiet and passes, and the mountain remains exactly as it was. This is the secret of the mountain's strength. It does not come from resisting. It comes from depth, from being so deeply rooted, so vast and settled, that the storm simply has nothing to overturn. The mountain does not brace against the wind. It is simply too deep to be moved. This is the difference the Buddha is pointing to, not between a life with storms and a life without them, for storms come to everyone, to the tree and the mountain alike. The difference is in what meets the storm. A mind without ground is thrown down by every gust. But a mind with depth, a mind that has learned to simply remain, lets the storms pass over it without being moved. And here is the gift of it for the night. You do not have to fight the storms of the mind. When the anxious thoughts come gusting through the dark, you do not have to resist them like the brittle tree, tensing against them, struggling to push them away. You can be the mountain instead. You can simply remain, deep and still, and let the thoughts howl past you without moving you, knowing that they are only weather, and that weather always passes, and that the mountain is always there beneath it, unmoved. Tonight, let yourself be the mountain. When a worry comes gusting through, do not fight it, and do not flee from it. Simply remain. Rest in your own depth, your own stillness, the vast quiet ground of you that no passing storm can move. Let the thoughts blow through like wind across a mountain, and let them pass, as all storms pass, while you remain deep and still and unmoved, settling slowly into the rooted calm that no storm has ever been able to reach. The wind may howl through the night. The thoughts may gust and rage. But you are the mountain now, deep and still and unmoved, and the storm, however fierce, is only passing weather, here for a while and then gone, while you remain. Let us explore a story. By the edge of a wide river, there grew two living things, side by side. One was a great old oak tree, tall and proud and rigid, its trunk thick, its branches strong. The other was a slender reed, thin and supple, bending this way and that with every breath of wind. The old oak looked down on the reed with something like pity. How weak you are, it said, bending at every little breeze, bowing down before the gentlest wind. Look at me. I stand tall and firm. Nothing moves me. The wind blows, and I do not bend an inch. That is true strength. The reed said nothing, but only swayed gently in the breeze, bowing and rising, as it always did. Then, one night, a great storm came. It was the fiercest storm in many years. The wind tore across the river with tremendous force, howling, battering everything in its path, bending the grasses flat and whipping the surface of the water into waves. And the old oak did what it had always done. It stood rigid. It refused to bend. It met the full force of the storm with all its stiff and stubborn strength, certain that it could not be moved. But this storm was stronger than the oak's resistance. The wind caught its broad, unyielding branches and pushed, and the oak, too rigid to bend, could only break. With a great cracking groan, it was torn from the earth, its roots ripped from the ground, and it crashed down beside the river, fallen, finished, undone by its own refusal to yield. And the reed? Through all of it, the slender reed bent low before the storm. It bowed all the way to the ground, offering no resistance, letting the fierce wind pass over it. It bent until the storm had spent its fury, and then, when the wind died down, it simply rose again, unbroken, exactly as it had always been. The mighty oak lay fallen, and the humble reed still stood, swaying gently in the calm after the storm. In the morning light, the difference was plain. The great tree that had seemed so strong lay broken across the river bank, its roots torn from the earth. And the slender reed that had seemed so weak stood whole and green, having survived the very storm that destroyed the oak, simply by knowing how to bend. Now, this old story seems at first to praise the bending reed over the rigid oak, and there is wisdom in that. But there is a deeper layer to it, one that connects to the mountain of the Dhammapada. For the reed's strength and the mountain's strength are secretly the same. The reed survives by not resisting, by letting the storm pass through. The mountain survives by not resisting, by letting the storm pass over. Neither one fights. Neither one meets force with force, like the brittle oak, and so neither one is broken. The oak believed that strength meant rigidity, meant standing firm against everything, meant never yielding, and that belief destroyed it. The reed in the mountain knew a deeper strength, the strength that does not need to fight, that lets the storms come and pass without resistance, and so endures through every tempest, unbroken. There is something here for the restless night. When the storms of anxious thought come howling through the dark, we so often respond like the oak. We stiffen against them. We resist them with all our strength, fighting the worry, struggling against the fear, meeting the storm with rigid force. And like the oak, we are worn down, exhausted, sometimes broken, by the very rigidity we mistake for strength. But you can be the reed tonight, and the mountain. When the anxious thoughts come, you do not have to stiffen against them. You can bend and let them pass through. You can remain still and deep and let them pass over. Either way, you do not fight, and so you are not broken. The storm blows through and spends itself and passes, and you remain unbroken, swaying gently in the quiet that always comes after. Let the storms pass tonight without fighting them, and rest in the deep and yielding strength that no tempest can break. You have weathered so many storms already, more than you often give yourself credit for. And here you are still, not because you fought each one, but because something in you knew how to bend, how to remain, how to let the worst of it pass over and through. Trust that knowing tonight. Let the storm pass and rest. The brittle tree and the rigid oak teach the same hard lesson, that what will not bend will break, and what fights every storm is worn down by its own resistance. But the mountain and the reed know a quieter strength, the strength that does not fight at all, that lets the storms come and pass, and remains unbroken in the calm that follows. You do not have to fight the storms of your own mind tonight. The anxious thoughts, the gusts of worry, the howling fears, none of them need to be resisted. You can be deep and still like the mountain, or supple and yielding like the reed, and either way, you will not be moved and you will not be broken. So let the storms blow through now, without resistance. Be the mountain, deep and unmoved. Be the reed, bending and rising. Let every gust of thought pass over you and through you, spending itself against your quiet, and let yourself settle, unbroken and serene, into the deep calm that waits beneath every passing storm. Let us turn now to the gentlest chapter of the Dhammapada, the one named for flowers, and to a pair of verses that carry a soft and fragrant wisdom. The verses go like this: like a beautiful flower, full of color but without fragrance, are the fair words of one who does not act accordingly. But like a beautiful flower, full of color and also fragrant, are the fair words of one who acts as they speak. On the surface, these verses are about words and deeds, about the difference between fine words that are empty and fine words that are lived. But tonight, let us rest in their gentler layer, the layer of flowers and fragrance, and the quiet beauty the Buddha so often pointed to. The Buddha loved the images of flowers. Throughout the Dhammapada, he returns to them again and again, to the lotus rising clean from muddy water, to the garland woven from many blossoms, to the fragrance that drifts on the air. And there is something restful in this, in a teacher of such depth turning so often to something as simple and as soft as a flower. Consider the fragrance of a flower for a moment. It asks nothing. It demands nothing. The flower does not strive to be fragrant, does not work at it, does not force its scent upon the world. It simply opens in its own time and releases its fragrance freely, to everyone and to no one, drifting gently on the air. The flower does not decide to be fragrant. It does not strain toward it, or measure its progress, or worry whether it is fragrant enough. The fragrance simply comes effortlessly as the natural overflow of a flower at ease. There is no effort in it. The fragrance is simply what the flower naturally gives when it is allowed to open. And there is a teaching in this for the night. So much of the day is effort, is striving, is forcing. We work to produce, to achieve, to make things happen. But peace, like fragrance, cannot be forced. It is not produced through effort. It is what is released naturally, gently, when we finally stop striving and allow ourselves to simply open like a flower in the evening, giving off the quiet fragrance of rest. There are flowers, you know, that open only at night. All through the bright and busy day, they stay closed, holding themselves tight against the heat and the glare. And then, as the sun sets and the cool dark comes, they begin, slowly, to open. Their petals unfold in the moonlight, and they release their sweetest fragrance into the night air, a fragrance the daytime never knew. They bloom for the darkness. They give their gift to the night. And there is something tender in this, that the most fragrant flowers of all should be the ones that wait for the dark, that open only when the harsh light has gone, that save their sweetness for the quiet hours. The night has its own beauty, its own blooming, that the bright day never sees. You can be like one of these night-blooming flowers now. All through the long day, you held yourself closed, tight against the demands and the glare. But now the cool dark has come, and you can begin, slowly, to open, to unfold, petal by petal, in the quiet, to release the tension you have held all day, and let the soft fragrance of rest drift out of you into the night. There is no effort in it. You have only to allow it, to let yourself open in the dark, the way the night flower opens, freely, gently, giving yourself at last to the quiet. There is no hurry in it. A flower does not rush to open. It unfolds slowly, petal by petal, in its own gentle time. So let yourself unfold slowly now, in no hurry at all, releasing the day petal by petal, opening softly into the fragrant dark of rest. Let us explore a story. There was once a woman who tended a beautiful garden and who loved her flowers above almost anything. But she was a restless soul, anxious and driven, and she tended her garden the way she did everything, with effort, with striving, with a constant worried need to make things grow faster and bloom brighter and be more beautiful than they were. She would rise before dawn and work in the garden all day, pulling at the plants, fussing over them, never satisfied. She watered too much, and then too little. She moved the flowers from place to place, certain they would do better somewhere else. She dug them up to check their roots, and replanted them, and dug them up again, never letting them settle, never letting them simply grow. She measured their growth and despaired when it was slow. And though her garden was beautiful, she could never see it, because she was too busy striving to make it more. At night she lay awake, worrying about the garden, planning the next day's labors, never resting. One evening, exhausted, she sat down in the garden at dusk, too tired to work, simply sitting as the light faded. And for the first time in a long while, she was still. She was too weary to fuss, too tired to strive, and so she simply sat and watched as the darkness gathered around her. And then something happened that she had never noticed before. As the sun set and the cool dark came, a part of her garden she had always overlooked began to change. Flowers she had thought were nothing special, closed and plain all day, began slowly to open in the twilight. Their pale petals unfolded in the gathering dark, and as they opened, a fragrance rose from them, sweet and rich and lovely, a fragrance she had never smelled in all her years of daytime labor, because these flowers only ever gave their gift to the night. All her years of striving in the bright day, and she had never once been still enough, at dusk, to witness this quiet unfolding, this gift the darkness had been offering all along. She sat very still, breathing in the fragrance, watching the night garden bloom, and she realized, slowly, that all her striving had never produced anything like this. This beauty had not come from her effort. In fact, her effort had blinded her to it. All her fussing and laboring had kept her eyes fixed on what was wrong, on what needed fixing, on what was not yet good enough, so that she had never once simply looked at the garden and seen that it was already beautiful. It was only now, when she had finally stopped working, finally grown still, finally let the garden simply be, that she could see what had been there all along. The garden bloomed most beautifully, not when she labored over it, but when she let it rest in the cool dark and rested along with it. From that night on, she learned to sit in her garden at dusk, doing nothing, simply being present as the night flowers opened. And she found that the garden grew more beautiful than ever, not because she strove harder, but because she had finally learned to let it be. And she herself grew more peaceful, for she had learned, from her own flowers, that the loveliest things open not through force, but through stillness, in their own quiet time. There is something here for you, in the dark, as you lie waiting for rest. Because so often we are like the restless gardener, striving even at our rest, working even at our peace, certain that if we just try hard enough, we can force the quiet to come. We lie awake, laboring at sleep, fussing at our own minds, never still long enough to let the peace simply open on its own. But peace, like the night flowers, opens through stillness, not through striving. You do not have to labor at your rest tonight. You do not have to force the quiet to come. You have only to be still, like the weary gardener at dusk, and let the peace open on its own, in its own time, releasing its quiet fragrance into the dark. The harder you reach for sleep, the further it retreats. But grow still and stop reaching, and it draws near on its own, like a shy creature that comes only when you sit quietly and wait. Stop striving now. Grow still, and let the night garden of your own rest bloom slowly around you, sweet and quiet and unforced, giving its gift to the dark. You need do nothing to make it bloom. You need only stop interfering, stop laboring, stop fussing at your own peace. The blooming happens on its own, in the stillness, in the dark, in its own gentle time, as you rest. The gardener's striving never made a single flower open. It was only her stillness, in the end, that let her see the garden bloom. So let your striving rest, and let the quiet do what striving never could. How easily we strive, even at our rest, laboring at the very peace that can only come through letting go. The restless gardener could not see the beauty before her, because she was too busy trying to force more of it. It was only in stillness, at dusk, that the night flowers opened and gave their fragrance to the dark. You do not have to labor at your peace tonight. Peace is not produced through effort, any more than fragrance is forced from a flower. It opens on its own, gently, in its own time, when you finally grow still enough to let it. So stop striving now, and simply open. Let the tension of the long day unfold and release, petal by petal, in the cool dark. Let the quiet fragrance of rest drift out of you into the night. There is nothing to force and nothing to labor at. There is only the slow, sweet opening of a night flower, giving itself freely to the dark as you give yourself, at last, to rest. Let us turn now to what may be the most famous verses in all of the Dhammapada, words that, according to tradition, the Buddha spoke in the very moment of his awakening. They are verses about the end of seeking, the end of building, the end of the restless striving that keeps us from peace. The verses go like this. Through many births I wandered in this world, seeking, but not finding, the builder of this house. Sorrowful is repeated birth. O house builder, you are seen. You shall build no house again. All your rafters are broken, your ridgepole shattered. The mind has reached the unconditioned. The end of craving has been attained. These are the words, tradition says, of one who had finally stopped seeking, finally stopped building, and found, in that stopping, the peace that all the seeking had been chasing. These are deep words, and we need not grasp all of their meaning tonight. But there is an image at the heart of them that speaks directly to the restless mind. The image of the house builder, the force within us that is always building, always constructing, always laboring to put together some structure of safety, some edifice of certainty, some house in which we believe we will finally be able to rest. Think of how the mind builds, especially at night. It constructs elaborate plans for the future. It builds scenarios, imagining how things might go, assembling defenses against every possible trouble. It builds and rebuilds the past, reconstructing what happened, what was said, what should have been done. All night long the mind labors at its construction, building house after house after house, certain that the next one, the right one, will finally be the structure in which it can rest. But the houses never hold. Each plan gives way to a new worry. Each defense reveals a new vulnerability. Each certainty dissolves into a new question. And so the building never ends, and the rest never comes, because we have made our peace depend on finishing a house that can never be finished, raised by a builder who never stops building. The Buddha's awakening in these verses is the moment the building stops. O house builder, you are seen. The restless force of construction is finally recognized, and in being seen, it grows still. You shall build no house again. The endless labor ends, and what remains, when the building stops, is not a finished house, but something far better. The peace that was never going to come from building at all. The rest that was always available the moment the construction ceased. This is the great surprise hidden in the Buddha's awakening, that what we seek through endless effort is found only when the effort stops, that the peace we try to build is buried by the very building, and that the moment the house builder sets down the tools, the peace is simply there, as it always was, waiting beneath all that frantic construction. There is a profound relief in letting the builder rest, in recognizing, tonight, that the mind's endless construction will never produce the peace it promises, that you do not have to finish the house tonight, that you can set down the tools and let the building stop and rest, not in some completed structure, but in the simple quiet that is there the moment the labor ends. Tonight, you can let the house builder rest. Whatever the mind is building, the plans, the defenses, the elaborate structures of worry and preparation, you can let it all go unfinished. You do not have to complete it tonight. You do not have to raise one more wall, or secure one more corner, or finish one more plan before you rest. Let the builder set down the tools. Let the construction cease, and rest, at last, in the deep quiet that comes not from any finished house, but simply from letting the endless building stop. Let us explore a story. There was once a man who was building a house, and he was determined that it would be perfect. He had a vision of the home he wanted, complete in every detail, and he told himself that once it was finished, once every part of it was exactly right, then he would finally be able to rest and to be happy and to live the life he had been waiting for. So he built. He laid the foundation and raised the walls and put on the roof. But when it was done, he looked at it, and it was not quite right. The windows should be larger, he thought, and so he tore them out and built new ones. But then the larger windows made the walls look wrong, and so he rebuilt the walls. And the new walls made the roof seem out of proportion, and so he rebuilt the roof. Years passed, and the man was still building. Every time he finished one part, another part seemed wrong and needed redoing. Spring became summer, summer became autumn, and still he hammered and measured and tore down and rebuilt, certain that perfection was always just one more change away. Every improvement revealed a new flaw. The house was never finished, because the moment it neared completion, he found something else that had to be changed. He lived in the midst of endless construction, surrounded by tools and half-finished work, telling himself that soon it would be perfect, and then he could finally rest. He grew old this way, always building, never resting, always certain that peace lay just beyond the next improvement. And one evening, exhausted, an old man now, he sat down amid the endless construction, and an old friend came to visit him. The friend looked around at the half-finished house, the same house that had been half-finished for decades, and said gently, "My friend, you have been building this house your whole life. When will it be done?" "Soon," the old man said, as he had always said. "Just a few more changes, and then it will be perfect, and then I will rest." He had said the same words for 30 years, and believed them every time. The friend was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "But you are old now. You have spent your whole life building a house you meant to live in, and you have never once lived in it. You have only ever built. What if the house was good enough years ago? What if you could have stopped building and simply lived and rested at any time you chose? What if the only thing standing between you and the home you longed for was your own refusal to stop building it? The old man sat in silence, looking at his house with new eyes, and he understood, at last, that the house had been livable for years, that he could have rested long ago, that it was not the house that had kept him from peace, but his own endless need to make it perfect, his own refusal to ever call it finished. The building had never been about the house. It had been a restlessness in himself, a force that could never stop, never be satisfied, never simply rest in what was already good enough. That evening, for the first time, the old man set down his tools. He did not pick up a single one. He simply sat in his house, the house he had never allowed himself to live in, and he let it be unfinished, and he rested, and he found, to his quiet amazement, that it was enough, that it had always been enough, that the peace he had been building toward his whole life had been available all along, the moment he was willing to stop building and simply rest. He looked around at the house he had labored over for decades and saw it now not as a project unfinished, but as a home, imperfect and lovely, that he could finally live in. The walls that had seemed wrong were simply walls. The house that had never been good enough was, he saw at last, more than enough. There is something here that speaks to the long night, and to the house the mind is always building in the dark, because so many of us are this builder. We lie awake, constructing and reconstructing, planning and revising, certain that once we have everything figured out, once every detail is right, once the house of our worry is finally perfect, then we will be able to rest. But that house is never finished. There is always one more thing to fix, one more plan to revise, one more wall to rebuild. But you can set down the tools tonight. You can do what the old man finally did. You can let the house be unfinished and rest anyway. The mind's construction will never be complete, and you do not have to wait for it to be. The peace you long for is not at the end of the building. It is here, now, the moment you are willing to stop. Set down the tools. Let the house be unfinished. And rest, tonight, in the quiet that was always enough, the moment you stopped building toward it. The plans will keep until morning. The unfinished things will still be there, and you can tend to them in the light if they truly need tending. But tonight, the tools are down, the building has stopped, and there is nothing left to do but rest in the home that was always, already enough. The house builder labors on through every night, and the house is never finished, and the rest never comes, because we have tied our peace to a construction that can never be complete. But the Buddha saw the builder, and in seeing it, the building stopped. And the old man set down his tools at last, and found that the house had been enough all along. You do not have to finish anything tonight. The plans can stay unmade, the defenses unbuilt, the elaborate structures of worry left incomplete in the dark. The peace you are seeking was never going to come from finishing them. It comes from setting down the tools and letting the building stop. So let the house builder rest now. Set down the tools, one by one. Let every unfinished thing stay unfinished. And rest, not in some perfect, completed structure, but in the simple, quiet, unconditioned peace that is here, always, the moment the endless building finally ceases. Let us turn now to a verse from the chapter of the Dhammapada that is called the Self, a verse about where true refuge is found. The verse goes like this: One is one's own refuge. What other refuge could there be? With oneself well controlled, one obtains a refuge hard to gain. There is a deep comfort in this verse, though it may not seem so at first. We spend so much of our lives seeking refuge outside ourselves. We look for safety in our circumstances, in other people, in the way things turn out. We tell ourselves that we will finally feel at peace when this changes, or when that is resolved, or when someone else does what we need them to do. We make our refuge depend on the world outside, which we cannot control, and so we are never quite safe, never quite at rest. But the Buddha points to a refuge that no one can take from you, a refuge you carry within, the quiet, steady ground of your own awareness, which is always there, beneath the turning of circumstances, beneath the changes of the world. This is the refuge that is always available, in any moment, in any place, no matter what is happening around you. It does not depend on things going well. It does not depend on anyone else. It is yours, and it is always there, and you can return to it at any time. Not when your problems are solved, not when the people around you finally behave, not when tomorrow turns out the way you hope. Now, tonight, exactly as things are, the refuge is open, and you may enter it. Think of what this means for the night. So often we lie awake because we are seeking refuge in things we cannot control. We are waiting to feel safe, but our safety is tied to tomorrow, to other people, to outcomes that have not yet arrived. And so we cannot rest, because the refuge we are seeking is always somewhere else, always just out of reach, always dependent on something we cannot command. But the verse reminds us that the refuge is here, within you, right now. You do not have to wait for the world to arrange itself before you can feel safe. You do not have to resolve everything, or control everything, or wait for anyone else. The quiet ground of your own being is already here, already steady, already a refuge, the moment you turn toward it and rest. There is a great peace in coming home to yourself this way, in realizing that you do not have to seek your rest anywhere else, do not have to earn it from the world, do not have to wait for permission. The refuge you have been looking for is the very awareness in which you are listening to these words. Quiet, steady, always here. A home you carry within you that no one can take, that is available always, the moment you return to it. Think of how freeing this is. You have been waiting for the world to give you peace, waiting for circumstances to align, for others to behave, for tomorrow to go well. But the refuge was never out there, in the world you cannot control. It was always here, within, in the one place that is wholly yours. Tonight, you can come home to yourself. You can stop seeking refuge in the world outside, in tomorrow, in things you cannot control. You can turn instead to the quiet refuge within, the steady ground of your own being, which is here now and has always been here, waiting for you, Rest there tonight, in the one refuge that is truly yours, that no storm can reach and no one can take, the deep and quiet home you carry within you, always, wherever you are. You have been seeking shelter in so many places, in so many things outside yourself. But the shelter was always here, within, waiting quietly for you to come home to it. Come home now. Rest in the refuge that was always yours. Let us explore a story. In an old monastery, a young monk came to his teacher in great distress. "I have been meditating for months," he said, "trying so hard to find the peace you speak of, the quiet mind. But the harder I try, the further it seems to go. I strive, and I cannot find it. Where is this peace? Why can I not reach it?" The teacher listened, and then lit a small oil lamp and set it on the table between them. Its warm light filled the room. Then the teacher took an empty clay pot and placed it upside down over the lamp, covering it completely. The room went dark. "Where is the light now?" the teacher asked. "It is hidden," the young monk said, "under the pot." "Is it gone?" "No," said the monk. "It is still burning. It is only covered." The teacher lifted the pot, and the warm light filled the room once more. "Your peace is like this lamp," the teacher said. "It is not something you must find, or reach, or create through striving. It is not far away, in some distant state you have not yet attained. It is already burning within you, always, steadily. But it is covered. And do you know what covers it? The very striving you are doing to find it. Your effort, your seeking, your trying so hard, these are the pot that hides the light. You do not need to make more effort to find your peace. You need only to lift away the pot of striving, and the light that was always there will simply shine." The young monk sat in silence, watching the lamp burn steadily between them. "Stop trying so hard to find the quiet mind," the teacher said gently. "The trying is what covers it. Set down the effort. Stop striving, and you will find that the peace was never far away. It was only hidden beneath your own searching for it. There is something here for the long and sleepless night, because so often we lie awake striving for rest, trying hard to quiet the mind, laboring to find the peace we long for. And, like the young monk, we do not realize that the striving itself is what hides the peace. The effort to sleep is what keeps us awake. The trying to be calm is what disturbs the calm. But your peace is already there, like the lamp, burning quietly within you, covered only by your own effort to find it. You do not have to strive for rest tonight. You do not have to try to quiet your mind. You have only to lift away the pot of striving, to stop trying so hard, and let the quiet that was always there simply shine. Set down the effort now. Stop seeking, and let the steady lamp of your own peace, which has been burning all along, fill the quiet dark with its gentle light. Let us explore a story. In the Dhammapada there is a chapter about the elephant, for the Buddha often used the great, calm elephant as an image of a mind grown steady and strong. And there is an old story that brings this image to life. A king owned a magnificent war elephant, famous for its courage in battle. In the midst of the fiercest fighting, with arrows flying and drums pounding and chaos all around, this elephant remained perfectly steady, perfectly calm, moving through the battle with a serene and unshakable composure. Nothing disturbed it. Nothing made it panic. A young soldier, amazed by the elephant's calm amid such chaos, asked the elephant's trainer how such steadiness was possible. "How can it stay so calm," he asked, "when everything around it is violence and noise and confusion?" The old trainer smiled. "The elephant has learned something," he said. "It has learned to be still at the center, no matter what storms around it. The arrows fly, but the elephant does not chase them. The drums pound, but the elephant does not flee from them. It simply remains steady at its own center and lets the chaos rage around it without entering in. The battle is outside, but within the elephant there is a stillness that the battle cannot touch." The Dhammapada puts it in words very close to this. As an elephant in battle endures the arrows shot from a bow, so should one endure the harsh words of others, for many people are undisciplined in their speech. The image is of a great calm at the center, enduring, unmoved, while the arrows of the world fly past. There is something here for the restless mind in the dark, because so often, at night, we are in the midst of our own kind of battle. The arrows of worry fly at us. The drums of anxious thought pound around us. The chaos of the racing mind surrounds us on every side, and we are tossed about by it, chasing each arrow, fleeing each drum, lost in the confusion. But you can be like the great calm elephant tonight. You can find the still center within you and rest there while the chaos rages around it. You do not have to chase the flying arrows of worry. You do not have to flee the pounding of anxious thought. You can simply remain steady at your own center and let the whole battle of the mind rage on outside without entering into it. The thoughts can come and go as they please. You do not have to follow them or fight them or answer their call. You can let them pass like soldiers marching by, while you remain still at the quiet center, untouched. There is a stillness in you that no chaos can touch, deep at the center, calm as the great elephant in the midst of the storm. The arrows of worry may fly all they wish. They cannot reach the still place. The drums of anxious thought may pound all night. They cannot disturb the deep center where you rest. Rest there tonight, steady and serene, while the arrows fly past and the battle exhausts itself, and let nothing disturb the deep calm at your center. Let us explore a story. A student once asked her teacher a question about the nature of peace. "You speak of a peace that does not change," she said, "a stillness that is always there. But the world is always changing, always moving. How can there be something steady in the midst of so much change?" The teacher led her out into the night, to a place where many bowls of water had been set out in a courtyard, dozens of them, each one filled to the brim. The full moon shone overhead, bright and round in the clear night sky, its light pouring down into the courtyard, and the teacher pointed to the bowls. The student looked and saw that in every single bowl the moon was reflected. Dozens of moons, one in each bowl of water, all shining up at her from the dark courtyard. "How many moons are there?" the teacher asked. The student looked at all the reflections. "There appear to be many," she said, "one in each bowl, but there is really only one moon reflected in all of them." "Yes," said the teacher. "And if a wind comes and ripples the water, what happens to the reflections?" "They scatter and shake," the student said. "They break apart on the moving water." "And the moon itself?" The student looked up at the moon, serene in the sky. "The moon does not move," she said slowly. "The reflections shake, but the moon itself remains perfectly still. The trembling is only in the water, not in the moon." The teacher nodded. "Your true nature is like the moon," she said. "Steady, serene, unchanging, high above. And the changing world, your thoughts, your moods, your circumstances, these are like the many bowls of water, each reflecting that nature, each trembling with every passing wind. When you look only at the trembling reflections, it seems that everything is shaking, unstable, never still. But the moon itself, your deepest nature, has never moved at all. The trembling is only in the water. The peace is always there, steady in the sky, untouched by every ripple below. There is a deep comfort here for the night, because so often, when the mind is troubled, when our thoughts and moods are shaking like rippled water, we believe that we ourselves are shaken to the core, that there is no stillness anywhere in us. We look at the trembling reflections, the agitated thoughts, the restless feelings, and we think, "This is what I am, all turbulence, never still." But the turbulence is only in the water, deeper than every troubled thought, steadier than every passing mood. Your true nature rests like the moon in the sky, serene, unmoved, untouched by all the rippling below. The thoughts may shake, the feelings may tremble, but the deep awareness in which they all appear is as still as the moon and always has been. Tonight, rest as the moon rests. Let the waters of the mind ripple and shake as they will, the thoughts trembling, the moods passing like wind across the surface. You do not have to still the water. You have only to remember that you are not the trembling reflections, but the steady moon above, serene and unmoved, high in the quiet sky. Rest there tonight, in your own deep and changeless nature, and let the surface tremble as it will, while you remain, still and luminous and calm, untouched by every passing ripple, like the moon above 1,000 shaking waters. You are not the trembling. You never were. You are the still light above it all, serene in the dark sky, shining quietly down, while the waters do what waters do, and tremble, and settle, and tremble again, far below your changeless peace. Let us explore a story. The Buddha loved the lotus flower above all others, and returned to it again and again, for it held a teaching he wished people to understand. And there is a simple story that carries this teaching gently. A student, troubled by all the difficulty and ugliness she saw in her life, came to her teacher in despair. "How can I ever find peace?" she asked, "when my life is so full of trouble? There is so much that is hard, so much that is painful, so much mud and murk all around me. How can anything beautiful grow in such conditions?" The teacher took her to a pond. The water was dark and murky, the bottom thick with mud, and rising from that dark water, blooming on the surface, were lotus flowers of extraordinary beauty, pure and radiant, their petals perfect and clean. "Look at the lotus," the teacher said. "Where does it grow?" "In the mud," the student said. "At the bottom of the dark water." "Yes," said the teacher. "The lotus does not grow despite the mud. It grows because of it. The mud is its nourishment, the very thing it feeds upon to rise and bloom. Without the mud, there would be no lotus. And notice this. The flower rises through the murky water and opens on the surface, and though it grew from the mud, not a single speck of mud clings to its petals. It is perfectly clean, perfectly pure, rising clean out of the very thing that fed it." The student gazed at the lotus, radiant above the dark water. "Your life is the pond," the teacher said. "And yes, there is mud in it, as there is mud in every life. But the mud is not your enemy. It is the very ground from which your wisdom, your compassion, your beauty can grow. The difficulties you have known, the pain you have passed through, these are the mud that nourishes the lotus of who you are becoming. You do not have to escape the mud to bloom. You have only to let yourself rise through it, and open, clean and beautiful, on the surface, carrying none of it with you. There is something here for the heart in the dark, because so often we believe that our difficulties disqualify us from peace, that the mud of our lives keeps us from blooming, that we must somehow escape all that is hard before anything beautiful can grow. But the lotus teaches otherwise. The hardest things you have passed through are not obstacles to your peace. They are the very mud from which your deepest wisdom grows. And like the lotus, you can rise clean through them, carrying none of the murk on your petals, blooming all the more beautifully for the dark water you have risen through. Tonight, you do not have to escape the mud of your life to find rest. You can let yourself rise through it, like the lotus, opening quietly on the surface of the dark water. The difficulties have nourished you, even when they hurt. And you are blooming, even now, even tonight, rising clean and beautiful through all you have passed through, carrying none of it with you into the quiet open air of rest. The mud is not your shame. It is your ground. And from it, quietly, beautifully, you are rising still, opening petal by petal in the dark, clean and whole and radiant, the flower that needed the mud in order to bloom. Let us explore a story. In the same chapter of the Dhammapada that speaks of flowers, there is a verse about a bee. It says that just as a bee gathers nectar from a flower and flies away without harming the flower, or its color, or its fragrance, so should the wise move through the world. And there is a gentle story that opens this image. A young man, anxious and grasping, watched a bee moving among the flowers in a garden one morning. The bee landed lightly on a blossom, gathered what it needed, and lifted away, moving on to the next, never lingering, never clinging, never damaging the flower it had visited. The flower remained perfect, swaying gently, as though the bee had never been there at all. An old gardener, seeing the young man watch, came and stood beside him. You could learn much from the bee, the gardener said. See how lightly it touches each flower. It takes only what it needs, and then it lets go and moves on. It does not cling to the flower, does not try to possess it, does not damage it by grasping, and so it moves through the whole garden freely, nourished by everything, weighed down by nothing. The young man, who clung to everything, who grasped at every experience and tried to hold every moment, began to understand. I am not like the bee, he admitted. When I find something good, I cling to it. I try to keep it, to possess it, to hold it forever. And in the grasping, I crush it and exhaust myself and never feel free. Then learn from the bee, the old gardener said. Taste the sweetness of each moment, and then let it go. Do not cling. Do not try to keep what is meant to be passed through. Move lightly, taking what nourishes you and releasing it and moving on. This is how to live free. Not by holding everything, but by touching all of it lightly and clinging to none of it. The bee is not poor for letting the flower go. It is freer and lighter, and it carries the sweetness of 100 flowers precisely because it clung to none of them. There is wisdom here for the restless night, because so often we lie awake clinging to the good moments of the day, wanting to keep them, clinging to the experiences we fear to lose, clinging to the way we want things to be. And the clinging is heavy, and it exhausts us, and it is the opposite of the bee's light freedom. But you can be like the bee tonight. You can hold the day lightly, taking what nourished you and releasing the rest. The good moments do not need to be clutched to be kept. They have already given you their sweetness. You may let them go and carry the sweetness onward, light as the bee. You do not have to cling to anything, to keep anything, to grasp at any moment or experience or hope. You can touch it all lightly, as the bee touches the flower, and then let go and move on into the quiet, into rest. Let go of the clinging now. Hold the whole day lightly, and then release it, and move, light and free as the bee, into the deep flower of the night, where there is nothing to grasp, and nothing to keep, and nothing to do but rest. Let us explore a story. A teacher held up a clear glass of water that had been sitting undisturbed on a windowsill for many days. The water was perfectly clear, perfectly still, and at the very bottom lay a fine layer of sediment, dust that had settled out of the water over the quiet days. This water was once cloudy, the teacher told her student. When it was first poured, it was full of dust, swirling, murky, impossible to see through. But I did not try to clean it. I did not stir it, or strain it, or work at it in any way. I simply set it here, and left it alone, and let it be still. And over the quiet days, all on its own, the dust settled, and the water grew clear. The student looked at the clear, still water, the sediment resting quietly at the bottom. Now watch, the teacher said, and she picked up the glass and swirled it, stirring the water, and at once the settled dust rose up again, swirling through the water, clouding it until it was murky once more. This is what we do, she said, when we cannot leave our own minds alone. The mind, left in stillness, settles and grows clear all by itself. But we cannot leave it still. We reach into the glass again and again, certain that this time, if we just stir a little more, examine a little harder, the water will finally come clear. We stir it with our worrying, our analyzing, our endless turning over of every thought. And every time we stir, the dust rises again, and the mind grows cloudy, and we cannot see, and we cannot rest. She set the glass back down on the windowsill, and together they watched, in silence, as the swirling slowly settled once more, the dust drifting downward, the water clearing on its own. The clearing happens by itself, the teacher said softly. You do not have to do anything to make it happen. You have only to stop stirring and let the water be still, and it will clear all on its own, as it always does, given only stillness and time. There is something here for the restless night, because so often we lie awake stirring the water of our own minds. We turn over our worries again and again. We analyze, we replay, we churn through every thought, and every time we do, the dust rises and the mind grows cloudy and rest moves further away. But the mind, like the water, clears on its own, if only we let it be still. You do not have to do anything tonight to clear your mind. You do not have to work at it, or analyze your way to calm, or stir the water trying to make it clear. You have only to stop stirring, to set the glass down and let it be still, and let the dust of the day settle on its own, drifting slowly downward, while the mind grows clear above, all by itself, given only the stillness you allow it. Stop stirring now. Be still, and let your mind clear on its own, as it always will, when you finally leave it in peace. Let us explore a story. A small stream high in the mountains was anxious about its journey. It had heard that it was meant to travel all the way to the great sea, far away, across vast distances of unknown land. And the little stream was afraid. How would it find the way? What if it got lost? What if it could not make it? What if, somewhere in all that vast unknown country, it simply dried up and never arrived at all? It fretted and worried at the top of the mountain, certain that such a journey was beyond it. An old current, flowing nearby, heard the little stream's worry. "Why do you fret so?" it asked. "I am meant to reach the sea," the little stream said, "but it is so far, and I do not know the way, and I am so small. How will I ever get there?" The old current laughed gently. "You do not need to know the way," it said. "You do not need to find it, or figure it out, or carry the whole journey in your mind. You have only to flow. The way will reveal itself beneath you, step by step, bend by bend. Where the land slopes down, follow it. Where a rock stands in your path, flow around it. You do not argue with the rock, or try to move it, or wait until you understand it. You simply find the easy way past, and keep flowing. You cannot see the whole journey from here, and you do not need to. You need only to take the next gentle step downhill, and then the next, and the sea will draw you to itself, as it draws all water home. Every stream that ever flowed has reached the sea, not by knowing the way, but simply by flowing. And so the little stream began, simply, to flow. It did not try to see the whole journey. It followed the gentle slope of the land, bend by bend, around each rock, down each hill. And though it never once saw the whole way ahead, the way revealed itself beneath it, step by step, and in time, without ever having figured it out, the little stream flowed at last into the great and waiting sea. There is something here for the night, and for the worried mind, because so often we lie awake like the anxious stream, trying to see the whole journey, trying to figure out the entire way ahead, certain that we must know how everything will unfold before we can rest. We fret over the distance, the unknowns, the long road we cannot see to the end of. But you do not need to see the whole way tonight. You do not need to figure out the entire journey or know how everything will unfold. Like the stream, you have only to take the next gentle step and trust that the way will reveal itself beneath you, bend by bend, as it always has. You have come this far already, around every rock, down every hill, though you never once saw the whole path ahead. And you will reach where you are going, not by knowing the way, but simply by flowing. So let go of needing to see it all tonight. Rest and trust the slope of things, and let yourself flow gently onward, drawn homeward like every stream, toward a sea that is always, quietly, drawing you to itself. You have always been carried, even when you thought you were lost. The slope of things has always been guiding you home, bend by bend, though you could not see it. Trust it now, and stop straining to see the whole way, and let yourself be carried gently into rest. Let us explore a story. In a mountain temple, there hung a great bronze bell, and each evening a monk would strike it, and its deep tone would roll out across the valley, calling the day to a close. A young novice loved the sound of the bell, and one evening he asked the old monk who rang it, "Where does the sound go when the bell falls silent? The tone fills the whole valley, and then it fades. Where does it go?" The old monk smiled, and instead of answering, he struck the bell. Its deep tone rang out, full and resonant, filling the air. And then, slowly, the sound began to fade. The two of them stood and listened as the tone grew softer and softer, fading gradually into the evening, until at last it melted entirely into silence. "Listen now," the old monk said, and they stood together in the silence that followed. "Do you hear that?" the monk asked. "I hear only silence," the novice said. "Yes," said the old monk, "and that silence was always there. The sound of the bell did not replace the silence. It arose out of the silence and rang for a while, and then sank back into the silence from which it came. The silence was here before the bell, and it is here after, and it was even here beneath the sound, holding it. The bell does not break the silence. It is born from it and returns to it. The silence is always there." The novice listened to the deep quiet of the evening and understood, for the first time, that the silence was not merely the absence of the bell, but something vast and present in its own right, always there, beneath all sound. There is something here for the restless mind in the dark. because we so often think of silence, of stillness, of peace, as merely the absence of noise, something that exists only when all the sounds and thoughts have stopped. And so we try to stop our thoughts, to silence the mind by force, certain that peace will come only when the last thought has faded. But peace, like the silence beneath the bell, is not merely the absence of thought. It is always there, vast and present, beneath all the noise of the mind, holding it. Your thoughts arise out of a deep stillness, ring for a while, and sink back into it. And that stillness is here even now, beneath the busiest thinking, the way the silence is there even beneath the ringing bell. Tonight, you do not have to silence your thoughts to find peace. The peace is already here, beneath them, the deep silence from which they arise and into which they fade. Listen for it now, the way the novice listened. Beneath the thoughts, around the thoughts, holding the thoughts, there is a vast and gentle silence, always present, always still. Let your thoughts ring and fade as they will, like the tone of the bell, and rest in the deep silence beneath them, which was here before they came, and will be here after, and is here even now, holding you, quiet and vast and still. You do not have to quiet the bell. You do not have to stop the thoughts from ringing. You have only to rest in the silence that holds them, the deep stillness that was here before the first thought and will be here after the last, vast and gentle and always present, beneath it all. Let us explore a story. A man walked alone across a wide field of fresh snow on a winter evening. Behind him, his footprints stretched back across the white field, a long line marking every step he had taken, all the way to the horizon. And as he walked, he kept turning around to look at them. He could not stop looking back. He studied his footprints, examining each one, troubled by them. Here, the steps had wandered. There, they had doubled back. In one place he had stumbled, and the snow was disturbed. He walked on, but his attention was always behind him, on the trail he had left, replaying every misstep, every wandering, every place he wished he had walked straighter. An old woman, sitting at the edge of the field, watched him walk by, his head always turned backward, stumbling now in the present because he would not look ahead. "Why do you keep looking back?" she called to him. "I am studying my footprints," the man said, "looking at all the ways I went wrong. See how I wandered there, how I stumbled here. I cannot stop thinking about them." The old woman smiled gently. "Do you know what will happen to those footprints tonight?" she asked. The man looked back at the long trail of his steps. "Fresh snow is coming," the old woman said. "By morning, every one of those footprints will be gone, covered over. The field will be white and smooth again, as though you had never stumbled at all. The past you are so busy studying is already melting away behind you. It has no hold on the steps you take next, unless you give it one by refusing to look ahead. The footprints are already fading. Why carry them when even the snow lets them go?" The man looked at his footprints once more and saw them for what they were, already softening at the edges, already beginning to fade. The past, dissolving gently behind him, asking only to be released. And he turned at last, to face the way ahead, and walked on, his steps growing steadier the moment he stopped looking back. The field before him was untouched and white, full of room for new steps, and he found that he could walk it freely now that his eyes were no longer fixed behind him. There is something here for the long night, and for the mind that will not stop looking back, because so often we lie awake studying our own footprints, replaying the missteps of the day, the things we wish we had done differently, the places we stumbled or wandered. We turn around again and again, examining the trail behind us, troubled by every imperfect step. But the past is like footprints in the snow, already fading, already softening behind you. It has no hold on you tonight, unless you give it one by refusing to look away. The man stumbled in the present only because he would not stop staring at the past. The moment he turned to face forward, his steps grew steady. The missteps of the day are already dissolving, and by morning the field will be smooth and white again, a fresh expanse with no trace of where you stumbled. Tonight, you can stop looking back. You can let the footprints fade, as they are already fading. Whatever you wish you had done differently today, let it soften behind you. Let the gentle snow cover it over. Let it go. You do not have to study the trail tonight. You have only to turn gently away from all that is behind you and rest while the snow falls quietly over every misstep, smoothing the field white and clean for the morning. Let us turn now to another pair of verses from the Dhammapada, an image about the mind and how it meets what comes to it. The verses go like this: just as rain breaks through an ill-thatched house, so passion breaks through an undeveloped mind. And then the turn: just as rain does not break through a well-thatched house, so passion does not break through a well-developed mind. The image is a simple one, drawn from ordinary life in an ancient village. A house with a poorly made roof, the thatch thin and full of gaps, and how the rain finds every weakness, dripping through, soaking everything inside. And beside it, a house with a well-made roof, the thatch thick and sound, and how the same rain falls upon it and simply runs off, leaving everything within dry and safe and warm. The rain falls on both houses. The Buddha is not promising a life without rain. The troubles come to everyone, the difficulties, the disturbances, the storms of feeling that the old texts call passion. The difference is not in whether the rain falls, but in whether the roof holds. Whether there is something within us, some quiet steadiness that lets the troubles run off rather than soaking us through. Think of how the rain gets in on a sleepless night. A worry arrives, a small one, like a single drop, and if the roof is sound, it simply runs off. But if the roof is thin, full of gaps, the drop finds its way in, and then another, and another, until the whole inside of the mind is soaked through with worry, dripping, flooded, unable to find a single dry place to rest. But the roof can be mended. Not in a night, perhaps, but the well-thatched mind is something that grows, slowly, through the gentle practice of returning again and again to stillness. And even tonight, you can find the soundest part of the roof, the part that still holds, and rest beneath it. You can let the rain of worry run off, rather than letting it in. You can find the dry, quiet place within, the part of you that is steady even when it rains, and shelter there while the troubles fall harmlessly outside. Tonight, let the rain run off. When the worries come, like drops against the roof, you do not have to let them in. You can rest in the sound and sheltered place within you, dry and warm and quiet, while the rain falls outside and simply runs away down the thatch. Let the troubles fall where they fall, and rest, sheltered and safe, beneath the quiet roof of your own steady awareness, while the rain of the world falls gently and harmlessly outside. Listen to it even, the way one listens to rain from a warm and sheltered room. The sound of it can be soothing once you know it cannot reach you. There is a deep comfort in being dry while the rain falls, in being warm while the storm passes, in resting in shelter while the troubles patter harmlessly against a roof that holds. You are in that shelter now. Let the rain fall. You are dry and warm and safe within. Let us explore a story. A water-bearer in an old village carried water each day from a distant stream to his master's house, using 2 large pots that hung from the ends of a pole across his shoulders. One of the pots was perfect and carried its full measure of water all the way home. But the other pot had a crack in it, and by the time the water-bearer reached the house, this cracked pot was only half full, having leaked the rest along the path. For a long time, the cracked pot was ashamed of itself. It saw the perfect pot arrive full each day, and it knew that it arrived only half full, and it felt that it was a failure, broken, unable to do the one thing it was made to do. The shame weighed on it terribly. One day, by the stream, the cracked pot finally spoke to the water-bearer. "I am ashamed of myself," it said. "Because of my crack, I leak water all the way home. Every day I watch the other pot arrive full, and I arrive only half full, and I feel that I have failed you. You do all this work, and you only get half the water from me. I am sorry that I am broken." The water-bearer listened gently and did not seem troubled at all by the pot's confession. "As we walk back today," he said, "I want you to notice the path." And so, as they walked, the cracked pot looked at the path, and on its side of the trail, the side where it leaked, there grew a beautiful line of flowers, bright and flourishing, all along the way. On the other side, the perfect pot side, the path was bare. "Did you notice," the water-bearer said, "that the flowers grow only on your side of the path? That is because I have always known about your crack, and I made use of it. I planted flower seeds on your side of the trail, and every day, as we walk home, you water them through your leaking. For all this time, you have thought yourself broken, good for nothing but losing water. But your very crack, the thing you were so ashamed of, has been watering these flowers and bringing this beauty into the world every single day. Without your crack, this path would be bare." The cracked pot was quiet, seeing the flowers it had watered, the beauty it had made, through the very flaw it had been so ashamed of. There is something here that speaks softly to the heart in the dark, because so many of us lie awake ashamed of our cracks, the ways we feel broken, flawed, not good enough, unable to do what we think we should be able to do. We catalog our imperfections in the night and feel the weight of them, certain that they make us less. But the Dhammapada, in its chapter on the self, reminds us that we are our own refuge, exactly as we are, cracks and all. And like the cracked pot, the very flaws we are most ashamed of are often unknown to us, the source of unexpected beauty, the place where compassion enters, where we connect to others, where flowers grow along our path. You do not have to be a perfect pot to be at peace. You do not have to mend every crack before you can rest. Tonight, let your cracks be. The ways you feel broken or flawed or not enough, let them rest, unjudged in the dark. They are not the failures you take them for. They are part of what makes you who you are, and often the very places where beauty has entered your life. Rest tonight, cracked and whole, exactly as you are, and trust that flowers have grown along your path that you may never even have noticed, watered by the very things you thought were only flaws. Let us explore a story. A traveler came one day to the bank of a wide and difficult river. The far side was where he needed to be, but the river was too deep and too swift to cross on foot, and there was no bridge and no boat to carry him. So he gathered branches and reeds and vines, and with great effort, over many days, he built himself a sturdy raft. The raft served him well. He launched it into the river and paddled across the difficult water, and it carried him safely to the far shore. Without the raft, he could never have made the crossing. It had been exactly what he needed. But now, standing on the far bank, the traveler faced a choice. The raft had been so useful, had served him so well, that he was reluctant to leave it behind. He thought, this raft carried me across the river. It was so valuable to me. Perhaps I should lift it onto my back and carry it with me, in gratitude, wherever I go. And here, the old teaching asks a simple question. Would that be wise? To carry the heavy raft on his back across dry land for the rest of his journey, simply because it had once been useful on the water? Of course not. However well the raft had served him on the river, on land it would be nothing but a burden, a great weight to carry for no reason at all. The wise traveler, the Buddha taught, gives thanks for the raft and leaves it at the shore and walks on unburdened. The Buddha told this story about his own teachings, saying that even they were like a raft, meant for crossing over, not for carrying. But the image speaks to so much that we carry needlessly through the night, because so many of the things that keep us awake are rafts we have carried far past the river. Think of it. The worry that once helped you prepare for something is still on your back, long after the thing has passed. The vigilance that once kept you safe in some difficult time is still weighing on you, though the difficulty is long over. The ways of thinking, the defenses, the habits of mind that once served you in some hard crossing, you are carrying them still across dry land, though their river is far behind you. They were useful once, but now they are only weight. Tonight, you can set down the rafts you no longer need, the old worries that have outlived their purpose, the vigilance that guards against dangers long past, the heavy habits of mind you have carried far beyond the river where they once served you. You can give thanks for how they helped you once, and then set them down at the shore, and walk on, unburdened. You do not have to carry every old raft through the night. Lay them down, give thanks, and rest, light and free, on the far shore where they are no longer needed at all. Let us explore one final story to carry us gently toward the close of our evening. There was once a man who spent his whole life searching for happiness. He was certain it existed somewhere, and he was determined to find it. He sought it in wealth and gathered a great fortune, but found that the having of it brought him no peace, only the fear of losing it and the endless labor of keeping it. He sought it in achievement and accomplished great things, but each accomplishment left him restless for the next. He sought it in pleasure, in travel, in every experience he could find, always certain that happiness was just ahead, in the next thing, around the next corner. He grew old in his searching, and he had tasted everything the world could offer, and still the deep happiness he sought had eluded him. Weary at last, he heard of a sage who lived high in the mountains, said to possess the very contentment he had spent his life chasing. And so he made one final journey, climbing the long path to the sage's simple dwelling, determined to learn the secret before his life was over. He found the sage sitting quietly outside a small hut, doing nothing at all, simply resting in the evening light. The man poured out his whole story, all his searching, all his seeking, all the things he had tried and found wanting, the wealth that had brought only worry, the achievements that had brought only the hunger for more, the pleasures that had faded the moment he grasped them. "I have looked everywhere," he said. "I have had wealth and achievement and every pleasure, and still I have not found the happiness I am looking for. You are said to possess it. Please, tell me the secret. Where is the happiness I have searched for my whole life?" He had gathered and lost, climbed and fallen, tasted every pleasure and grown weary of each one. His voice was tired, the voice of a man who had tried everything and found nothing, who had come to this mountain as his last hope, certain that if even the sage could not help him, then the happiness he sought did not exist at all. The sage was quiet for a long moment, looking at the weary man before him with gentle eyes. And then he spoke. "There is an old verse," he said, "from the Dhammapada, the sayings of the Buddha. It lists the fires that burn us and the troubles that weigh on us. And then it says something simple, that you have spent your whole life proving true without ever understanding it. There is no happiness," the sage said slowly, "higher than rest." The man stared at him. "Rest?" he said. "I have crossed the world seeking happiness, and you tell me it is only rest?" "Only rest," the sage said with a gentle smile. "You have spent your whole life in motion, seeking, striving, chasing happiness from one thing to the next. And in all that seeking, the one thing you never tried was to stop, to rest, to be still and want nothing, and chase nothing, and simply be at peace with what is. All your searching was itself the thing that kept happiness away, for happiness is not found at the end of the seeking. It is found when the seeking stops. There is no happiness higher than rest, because rest is the end of the very striving that troubles the heart. All the running was the trouble. All the chasing was the unrest. And the moment the running stops, what remains is the peace that was always underneath it, patient and quiet, waiting only for the stillness to be felt. You have been running your whole life. Sit down, be still, and you will find in the stillness the happiness that all your running could never catch. The man sat down beside the sage, there in the quiet evening light, and for the first time in his long and restless life, he stopped seeking. He simply sat and was still and wanted nothing and chased nothing. And slowly, in the stillness, a deep and quiet peace rose in him, a peace he had never found in all his searching, a happiness that had been waiting all along on the far side of his own stopping. It was not a happiness that came from getting something, or achieving something, or winning something at last. It was the happiness that had been underneath all his seeking the whole time, covered only by the seeking itself. He understood at last. There is no happiness higher than rest. And so it is for you, tonight, as you lie in the quiet dark. You have spent your day, perhaps your whole life, in motion, seeking, striving, chasing one thing after another. But now, in this moment, there is nothing to seek, and nowhere to go, and nothing to chase. There is only rest, the deepest happiness there is, available to you now, the moment you stop seeking and simply grow still. The Buddha named it plainly, more than 2,000 years ago. There is no happiness higher than rest. Not wealth, not achievement, not pleasure, not any of the things we chase. The highest happiness, the deepest peace, is simply this: to rest, to be still, to stop seeking, and let yourself, at last, be at peace. And that happiness is yours tonight, here, now, in the quiet dark, the moment you let yourself rest. Not earned, not achieved, not won through any effort or any seeking, simply received, the way rest is always received, by the one who finally stops and grows still and lets the deepest happiness there is rise quietly within them. There is no happiness higher than rest, and it is yours now, freely, in the stillness of this night. And so we come, slowly and gently, toward the close of our evening together. The hour has grown late, the verses have been spoken, and there is nothing left to do now but rest. We have wandered tonight through the ancient verses of the Dhammapada, those words spoken more than 2,000 years ago to quiet the restless heart. And each one offered a different doorway into the same deep peace. We began with the weight we carry, and learned that hatred is never appeased by hatred, that the hot coal burns only the hand that holds it, and that we can set down the wrongs we have been clutching through the dark. We saw the Buddha decline the angry man's insults, the way one declines a gift, and learned that what we do not accept returns to the one who offered it. We sat by the stream with the master who would not compete, and learned that the one who sets down both victory and defeat is freer than any champion. We emptied the bag of stones by the side of the road, and learned to stop carrying every old wrong and fault into the night. We watched the sage sit calm while his city burned, and learned to hold all things lightly, to call nothing our own, to rest our peace somewhere no fire can reach. We stood with the mountain in the storm and the reed by the river, and learned that what does not fight the storm is never broken by it. We breathed in the fragrance of the night-blooming flowers, and learned that peace opens through stillness, not through striving. We set down the tools beside the unfinished house, and learned that the building never ends, and that we can rest before it is complete. We came home to the refuge within, and learned that the peace we seek is the very awareness in which we rest. We sheltered beneath the well-thatched roof, and learned to let the rain of worry run off rather than soak us through. We walked the path beside the cracked pot, and learned that the very flaws we are ashamed of may be watering flowers we never knew were there. We left the raft at the shore, and learned to set down what once served us but now is only weight. We lifted the pot from the lamp, and saw that our peace is hidden only by our own striving to find it. We stood with the calm elephant amid the arrows, and learned to rest at a still center while the battle rages outside. We saw the one moon reflected in 1,000 trembling waters, and remembered that our deepest nature stays serene though the surface shakes. We watched the lotus rise clean and radiant from the dark mud, and learned that our difficulties are the very ground from which our beauty grows. We watched the bee touch each flower lightly and fly on, and learned to taste each moment without clinging, and move through life unburdened. We watched the dust settle in the still glass of water, and learned that the mind clears on its own when we stop stirring it. We followed the little stream toward the sea, and learned that we need not see the whole way, only flow gently onward, bend by bend. We listened to the tone of the bell fade into silence, and learned that peace is not the absence of thought, but the deep stillness beneath it, always there. We watched our footprints fade in the falling snow, and learned that the past is already dissolving behind us, asking only to be released. And finally, we climbed the mountain with the weary seeker, and heard the verse that crowns them all, the verse that has been quietly waiting at the heart of this whole evening. There is no happiness higher than rest. Every one of these is the same gentle truth, seen from a different side. The quiet mind is not something you must force into being. It is what remains when you set down the weight, release the contest, empty the bag, loosen the grip, stop fighting the storm, cease the building, and simply come home to rest. The verses have pointed the way for 2,500 years, and the way, in the end, is simply this: to rest, not to achieve rest, or earn it, or finally deserve it after everything is done. Simply to rest now, in the middle of the unfinished, the unresolved, the imperfect. To set down all that you have been carrying, and stop all that you have been doing, and simply be still, here, in the quiet dark, where the ancient words have led you. Every verse, every story, the same gentle destination: rest. And now, as the verses settle into silence, let us take a little time to let the body grow soft and still, from the crown of the head all the way down to the feet. There is nothing to do here but listen and let it happen on its own. You do not have to make anything relax. You do not have to work at it. You have only to bring a soft attention to each part of the body in turn, and let it release in its own way, in its own time, the way snow slips quietly from a branch when it is ready. Bring a gentle awareness to the very top of your head, and let it soften. Let the scalp release all across the crown and down behind the ears. Let the small muscles of the forehead grow smooth and still, releasing the tensions of the long day. Let the space between your brows grow soft and open. There is nothing to figure out now, only softening. Let your eyes grow heavy, resting closed, the muscles around them letting go. Let your face soften, the cheeks, the mouth, the small muscles that hold so much expression through the day. Let your jaw unclench, the teeth parting gently, the whole jaw growing loose and easy. Let your neck release and your throat grow soft. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears, growing heavy, releasing all they have carried. Let the softening flow down through your arms, through the upper arms, the elbows, the forearms, into the wrists and the hands. Let your hands grow heavy and warm against the bed, the fingers gently uncurling, falling open, holding nothing at all. Feel them grow soft and still and completely at rest. There is nothing to grasp tonight, nothing to clutch. Let the hands rest, open and soft. Let your attention come to rest on your chest, rising and falling, slowly, with each easy breath. Let it soften. Let the area around your heart grow warm and open. Let your belly soften, rising and falling, asking nothing of you. Let the breath move on its own, gentle and slow, with no need to change it or control it in any way. Each breath in, a quiet arriving. Each breath out, a gentle letting go. You are not breathing on purpose now. The breath is simply happening, all on its own, rising and falling like a slow and quiet tide, asking nothing of you, carrying you deeper into rest with every gentle wave. Let the softening flow down through your back, releasing all along the spine, from the top to the very base. Let your hips grow heavy, sinking down, fully held and supported. Let the softening move down through your legs, the thighs, the knees, the calves, into the ankles and the feet. Let your feet grow soft and heavy and warm, all the way to the tips of your toes. And now feel your whole body at rest, soft and heavy and warm, held completely by the bed beneath you. There is nothing to carry now, nothing to hold, nothing to seek. Only the breath, moving gently on its own. Only the body, sinking softly into rest. Only the quiet refuge within, holding you, steady and deep and kind. Feel how completely you are held. The bed beneath you, holding the body. The quiet of the room, holding the bed. The deep stillness within, holding all of it and you. There is nothing for you to do now but be held. Nothing to carry, nothing to seek, nothing to hold. Only rest, deep and warm and complete, holding you through the night. You do not need to remember any of these verses. Not a single word, not a single story. If something settled gently into you tonight, let it stay. And if it did not, let it go, freely, with nothing to hold. The Dhammapada will be here again tomorrow night, and all the nights after, as it has been for more than 2,000 years, waiting quietly for whoever seeks rest in the dark. Whatever has settled in you tonight will go unsettling in its own quiet time. Some of it now, some of it later, in some unexpected moment, when you find yourself, almost without trying, setting down a weight, or declining a rung, or letting the building stop. That is the way of these verses. They do not ask to be studied. They only ask to be lived gently, a little at a time. And tonight, you have lived them simply by resting with them in the dark. That is how the oldest wisdom works. Not by being memorized, but by being absorbed slowly, the way the ground absorbs a gentle rain, until one day it has quietly become part of you. You have set down a weight, declined a wrong, stepped out of a contest, let a house go unfinished. Not by trying hard, but by listening and letting the old words do their quiet work. That is enough. That is more than enough. So let yourself rest now completely. Let the body be heavy. Let the breath be slow. Let the mind grow quiet with nothing left to seek. The weight is set down. The contest is over. The building has stopped. And there is nothing left to do but rest here in the quiet refuge within, where the deepest happiness has been waiting all along. There is no happiness higher than rest. So let your mind grow quiet now, and let yourself rest as deeply and as sweetly as you need, for as long as you need, while the ancient words keep their long and gentle watch over the dark. Sleep well, rest now, and let the quiet carry you home.